Most men operate under a fundamental and painful misconception. They believe the sheer weight of shared history is enough to pull an ex back. They cling to the memories, the inside jokes, the trips taken, and the challenges overcome, convinced that this archive of intimacy is a treasure she too is desperately guarding. The logic seems sound. How could someone not miss what was so meaningful, right? But this is a critical error in understanding the female psyche, especially in the wake of a breakup. A woman doesn't miss a man simply because of the past they shared. Nostalgia is a fleeting emotion, easily suppressed by the excitement of a new beginning or the relief of escape. The past in itself is not a magnet. It becomes one only through contrast. The true catalyst for her missing you isn't found in reminiscing about yesterday. It is forged in the silent, often brutal realities of today. She begins to feel the weight of your absence only when her present. Circumstances start to actively expose what she willingly threw away. This crucial awakening cannot occur while you are still present in her emotional orbit, while you're chasing her, begging for another chance, or constantly trying to remind her of the good old days. These actions act as a safety net, providing her with a continuous drip of validation that numbs the feeling of loss. She never has to truly confront the void because your attention assures her that her power over you remains intact. Your pursuit becomes a constant reassurance of her own desirability, preventing any real sense of consequence from setting in. The shift happens only when you completely step back. When you cease all attempts to prove your worth and instead you let her experience life in its unedited form without the comfort of your presence, your support, or your unwavering attention. Tension in the dynamic between men and women functions like a powerful drug. Even when she is the one who leaves, she often still subconsciously expects you to remain a part of her audience, to orbit around her, to check in, and to chase, thereby proving that she still matters. You are her backup source of validation. When you deny her that hit, when you go ghost and refuse to play the role of her devoted fan club, the withdrawal symptoms begin. In the sudden quiet, the distractions fade, and the reality of her decision starts to seep in. Silence becomes a blank canvas onto which her mind begins to project questions and doubts. Why isn't he chasing? Did I overestimate my importance? Was he so easily able to let me go? This uncertainty is the seed from which genuine longing grows. Only in the absolute silence of your absence does she finally begin to feel the true weight and shape of the void you once filled. What is not the memory of a past laugh that makes her miss you? It is the chilling, present-day realization that the man who provided a foundational sense of security is gone, and his attention, which she took for granted, is now permanently withdrawn. The feeling of loss in experiences is not a spontaneous emotion that blooms from simple memory. It is a reaction, a series of sharp realizations triggered by specific and unavoidable confrontations with a reality that falls short of her post-breakup fantasies. This awakening occurs in distinct phases, each one chipping away at her initial narrative of liberation and replacing it with the dawning awareness of a costly mistake. The first and perhaps most powerful trigger is the inevitable failure of comparison. In the initial glow of freedom, she feels unburdened, convinced that a world of better, more exciting, or more emotionally attuned men awaits. This belief fuels her decision to leave, painting a fantasy of greener pastures. However, this illusion is shattered by the stark reality of her experiences with others. She goes on dates and enters situationships with men who may possess a novel charm or a different appeal, but who consistently fail to measure up to the foundational qualities you provided. They lack your particular brand of security, your grounding presence, or the consistent effort she once received. She discovers, through direct experience rather than your pleading words, that the fantasy she chased is hollow and cannot compete with the stable reality she willingly abandoned. This realization is a quiet, internal hum of disappointment that grows louder with every failed connection. Simultaneously, second powerful trigger is at work, the visible evidence of your growth without her. For a significant period after the breakup, Her ego is sustained by the belief that you are stuck, pining, and broken in her absence. This narrative provides her with a perverse sense of validation. Your perceived suffering is proof of her impact and value. This comfort is violently appended when she is confronted with proof that you are not crumbling, you are thriving. Whether through social media, mutual friends, or a chance encounter, she sees tangible evidence of your elevation. Your physique is improved. Your career is advancing. Your social circle is expanding. And, most importantly, your confidence is radiating. This sight is deeply unsettling because it directly contradicts the story she told herself. In her version of events, your value is tied to her presence. Your success without her is a silent rebuke to that entire narrative. She doesn't merely miss the man she left. She is tormented by the sight of the upgraded, more formidable man she no longer has access to. This isn't about nostalgia. It's about envy and the painful knowledge that she has been excluded from the benefits of your evolution, compounding. These first two triggers is a third, more systemic one: the sobering scarcity of truly qualified men. She operates under the societal illusion of endless choice, believing an infinite supply of higher value partners is available. The dating world, however, quickly reveals a different truth. She discovers that many men are inconsistent, emotionally, unavailable, selfish, or simply unmotivated. They fail to meet the basic standards of decency, respect, and effort that she had come to accept as her normal with you. The very things she may have taken for granted: her reliability, your loyalty, your willingness to commit, suddenly become rare and coveted commodities. Each disappointing interaction, each ghosting, each revelation of a glaring flaw forces a painful comparison. The replay button in her mind is activated not by a desire to return to you, but by the jarring contrast between what she once had and what she now faces. This is the moment where mild, rose-tinted nostalgia curdles into sharp, painful regret. The weight of her loss is no longer a theory. It is a daily reality, reinforced by a parade of mediocrity that reminds her, again and again, of the substantial man she let go. The most profound messages in the aftermath of a breakup are not conveyed through words, but through a potent and disciplined silence. This is where true power is exerted and where her perception of you is fundamentally rewritten. Many men understand the concept of no contact on a superficial level. Employing it as a short-term tactic to provoke a reaction, they white-knuckle their way through a week or two of silence before breaking, often with a weak or emotional message that instantly vaporizes any progress. This pattern only reinforces her belief that she retains ultimate control over your emotional state. However, the man who holds firm, embraces the silence, not as a game but as a genuine step toward his own recovery, becomes an enigma she cannot solve. Your sustained, unwavering silence sends a single, deafening message that her ego is utterly unprepared to receive. You do not need her. This message is catastrophic to the narrative she has built. She expected to be fought for. She expected her absence to be a gaping wound. Your silent acceptance of the end forces her to confront terrifying questions about her own worth. Was I not valuable enough to fight for? Did I mean so little that he could just let me go without a struggle? This ego injury is the fertile ground in which regret begins to take root. This strategy culminates in what might be the most powerful state you can achieve: calm indifference. It is important to distinguish this from active hatred or bitterness, which are simply inverted forms of emotional investment. Anger shows you still care, just negatively. True indifference is the complete absence of an emotional charge. Women often believe, and need to believe, that they have left a permanent scar on your psyche. They anticipate resentment, expect to live rent-free in your mind as the one who got away, a ghost you are constantly battling. When she discovers through a lack of reaction to her social media provocations, polite but distant response to a Shutan-seen text, or reports from mutual friends that you harbor no bitterness, it is deeply unsettling. Your calm neutrality communicates a truth far louder than any angry outburst ever could. She no longer matters. You have not just moved on in action, but in spirit. You have metabolized the experience and excreted the toxicity, and she is now a neutral footnote in your history. This is a devastating blow to her sense of self-importance. The ultimate manifestation of this power shift is her realization of lost control. For the entirety of your relationship, and likely in the immediate aftermath of the breakup, she operated with the unshakable belief that she held the reins of your emotional state. She could pull a string and get a reaction: jealousy, sadness, longing. This power is a form of validation that is incredibly addictive. Her attempts to test the waters weeks or months later, the casual "how are you" text, the nostalgic social media posts, the like on an old photo are not necessarily about wanting you back. They are probes to see if her control remains intact. Of all the forms of evidence that you have moved on, the most brutal and undeniable for her to witness is your tangible success and peace. Enjoyed not in isolation, but in the full view of the world, and most painfully, in the company of others. This chapter of your life, lived openly and authentically without her, delivers a series of ego-shattering blows that transform abstract regret into a sharp personal agony. The first and perhaps most visceral trigger is the admiration you receive from other women. This is a multifaceted injury. It begins with the simple, competitive sting of seeing a possession she once owned now desired by others. Even if she was the one who discarded you, a deep-seated, often subconscious part of her still views you as hers. Witnessing other women, particularly women she may perceive as attractive or of high status, openly appreciating you, liking your photos, or flirting in your comments, attacks her pride on a primal level. It shatters the illusion that she was the ultimate arbiter of your value. The narrative that you were the problem and she upgraded by leaving is violently appended when she is forced to watch others clearly identifying you as the prize. This jealousy is rarely about love. It is about pride and the terrifying realization that her assessment of your worth was catastrophically wrong. This pain is compounded exponentially by the sight of your unshakable peace. She left expecting a specific reaction: collapse. She was prepared for, and perhaps even anticipated, your bitterness, your desperation, your public suffering. This would have validated her decision, proving that she was indeed the source of your happiness and stability. Instead, she is confronted with the opposite reality. She sees you not broken, but whole. She sees you calm, composed, and radiating a quiet contentment that has nothing to do with her. This is a direct attack on her foundational belief that she was essential to your well-being. Your peace communicates a terrifying truth. You never actually needed her for your happiness. You were a complete person without her, and you are a complete person after her. This makes her question the entire relationship dynamic. If she wasn't your source of joy, then what was her role? Your tranquility becomes a mirror reflecting her own poor judgment. And nothing is more disorienting for a woman than realizing the power she thought she wielded was an illusion all along. The culmination of this anguish arrives when she sees you actively building a beautiful new life, the very life she once imagined sharing with you, but now being built upon the rubble of the world she abandoned. This is the deepest cut. She watches you traveling to places you talked about together, achieving career milestones, forging a stronger social circle, and appearing in photographs not with a forced smile, but with genuine, elevated joy. This image is devastating to her pride because it inverts her entire narrative of the breakup. In her mind, leaving was an act of empowerment that would diminish you and elevate her. Instead, she sees the exact opposite. You elevated without her. You are constructing the dream without the dreamer. This forces her to face a humiliating truth. She wasn't your completion. She was merely a companion on a journey that continues unabated in her absence. The most painful realization of all is that another woman will inevitably benefit from the man you have become, a man who is stronger, wiser, and more valuable, specifically because of the heartbreak she inflicted. She is permanently excluded from the very future she helped inspire, and that exclusion, that vision of you thriving in a world she can no longer access, is what makes the loss feel not just emotional, but existential. The final and most profound stage of regret is not a sudden shock, but a slow, sinking realization that solidifies into a permanent weight. It is the accumulation of all other triggers, compounded by the one force that erodes all illusions: time. Initially, her freedom is intoxicating. She's drunk on novelty, validation from new sources, and the excitement of reinvention she fills. The void you left with noise, new men, late nights, and the constant buzz of social activity. These distractions are highly effective for a while, but noise is temporary. Eventually, the parties end. The new men reveal their flaws and move on, and the friends return to their own lives. The distractions lose their power to numb, and in the resulting silence, the emptiness becomes deafening. This is when the absence hits with its full force. Lying alone at night, scrolling through a phone that no longer lights up with your messages, she is forced to confront the quiet. It is in this stillness that she remembers the safety of your presence, the comfort of your consistency, the grounding that no casual fling or superficial connection can ever replicate. Time acts as a truth serum, stripping away the temporary high of liberation and revealing the stark, enduring reality of what was lost. This process is intensified as her memory of you transforms from a collection of stories into a personal prison. She may try to replicate what you had with others, but it fails. No one else feels like home. No one else's presence provides the same unshakable sense of security. She finds herself trapped in a cycle of mentally reliving moments with Yutha. Way you made her feel during a crisis, the comfort of your scent, the sound of your voice moments that are now haunting because they are irreplaceable. The past becomes the only place where she can still access the feeling of being truly seen and secure. And this is a torturous realization. The man who provided that feeling is gone, not just from her life, but from the man you once were. Now you have evolved, and she is left nostalgically clinging to a ghost. A version of you, and a version of herself that no longer exists. The ultimate crushing wave of regret strikes when this crystallization is complete. She realizes you are permanently and truly out of reach. This is not because you blocked her number or hate her. Those are forms of emotional engagement. It's because you have intellectually and spiritually grown beyond her. She could text you. She could try to reconnect. But she knows, with a terrifying and final clarity, that she no longer holds any influence over your heart or your mind. You have not only moved on to new romantic prospects, you have moved on from the need for her validation in any form. You've erased her from your internal world. She is no longer the fire that drives you, the woman who defines you, or even the ghost that distracts you. You are fully oriented toward your future, and she is not in it. This transforms her feeling of missing you from a temporary sadness into a permanent wound. She doesn't just want you back. She wants the power and identity she held as the object of your desire. She wants to be unforgettable. The devastating truth she must finally accept is that she has become, to you, entirely forgettable. This realization that she will carry the weight of this loss for the rest of her life, while you have been freed by it, is the deepest and most unforgiving punishment of all. It is the paradox of loss. The one who walked away ultimately becomes the one left behind, forever haunted by the silence where your presence used to be.